Welcome to Ministry Matters. I'm your host, Jace Loebner. Today's guest is HLGU's very own Director of Campus Ministry, Mario Gabriel. How are you today, Mario?
I'm doing well, Jace. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good
So the
to hear
first thing
that.
to open things up for us, could you describe what a Director of Campus Ministry is to people who might not know?
Okay, so in some schools, which are like as our school, a Christian school, they have that position in the administration that do care about the spiritual life of the students. So the job is basically that person or that department look for the development of the spiritual life for all the students. That if they are Christians, they walk the Christian life with them. If they are not Christians, the goal is to share the good news with them and share the love of Jesus to them. So that can entail so many programs and so many activities underneath, but the main focus of it is sharing the gospel and walking the walk of Christ with those who know him.
For sure. Now, do you want to talk to us a little bit about your experience as the Director of Campus Ministry here at Hannibal, how long you've been doing it, how that process came to be, stuff like that?
Sure. So I started working at Hannibal in last November of 2023. So I've been here around 5 months. I mean, my experience have been so amazing so far. I enjoy every day talking to students, talking to faculty and staff. I saw so many good good students, and by good I don't say that like they act good, but I mean good, I mean that they have that golden heart that they just wanna some help to flourish in life, and I'm enjoying every single minute. How I came here, it's a funny story. So okay, I am Egyptian. I was born and raised in Cairo until the age of 34. I was living in Cairo and I was working in a university over there, doing student life. And then I decided to take a sabbatical and move to the US for a vacation, like 6 months vacation. And during that time, God intended for me to stay in the US, and he worked a lot of things out, and I can say in a miraculous way. So I stayed, and then I started doing ministry in a church in California, Orange County, California. I was leading the young adults ministry, which is basically college and graduates, for 4 years. And during that time, I thought, you know what? Why not going back to school again and do like seminary again? So I started my seminary in 2023, and one day I was in the seminary. I wasn't even studying. I was sitting in the lobby, and then I started to check the website of my seminary, and there was a portal where like or like entities post jobs over there, and one of them was HLG campus director. And I thought, you know what, I miss working with students in that setting. I have no idea where's Hannibal. I have no idea how it looked like, but I have free time right now, so I'm just gonna apply. And it seems that God have been planning all these things in my life to be at that moment where I decided to apply. And then school called me and we talked about it, and then I prayed and fasted about it, and I found out this might be my next step in life. And that's how I ended up in Hannibal.
Yeah, when you tell people you're in Hannibal, I'm sure most of them don't have a clue where you're talking about. That's kind of how it is. But it's cool to see that God did kind of set that up for you and lead you here. Now, I'm interested, and I'm sure many people are interested, what are some of the cultural differences from living in Egypt and being from that culture and then coming to America and having that culture?
Okay, so I mean, first of all, I found out that America cannot be said as a one thing. Like every part of America has its own culture. But where I came from, my city is a 24-hour city. So at midnight, you don't think if something is open to find something to eat or not. You think what I'm craving at midnight, and you have plenty of options to go to. So it's quite different. Cairo is more than 30 million people living over there in that city. So it was huge city traffic. That California traffic was a fun traffic for me compared to where I came from. But if I can talk about that, I think the structure of the community is slightly different there than here. So again, in Egypt, not many people change their hometown for a job or like for a school or something like that. So if you were born in Cairo, 99% of them gonna have school in Cairo and gonna find a job in Cairo, and so you just change your neighborhood. That's the most that you can do. But here in the U.S., no, it's different. So back in Egypt, all my family and friends were almost going to the same church, and that was like 10-minute walk from home. When I moved to the U.S., I had to find a church that suits me. So the one I found was an hour drive from where I was living, just because I want to be in a community that I can feel I can fit in. And I found out that you find like a lot of single people, not single, I mean not married, but I mean their bigger family is not even in their state. So the structure of the community is a bit different. Um, I love the diverse of food options here in the U.S. I love the like Middle Eastern food much more than any American food, but I can taste any cuisine from the whole world. And also, one interesting thing for me was I came from a Baptist church in Egypt. So when I came and I started going to a Baptist church, I had that impression that they're gonna be identical. I found out, oh, they are so different. Like, yes, we have the same faith, but the way they do church is different. One thing was funny when I moved to Hannibal was I church was at 10:30, so I showed up at 10:25. Everyone was getting into the ministry, like to the main service, and once the service was done, everyone went home. And then I stood not understanding what's going on, why people just leave so fast from church, because where I came from, we do everything after the main service. So we have like the fellowship, we have like the talking, even Sunday school, everything is after. But here, 3 weeks later, I found out that people come 2 hours early to be at church, and this is where they do the fellowship. Well, I didn't know that. So small things like that, it's just funny to see, oh, they do things really different than us.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see it before you actually like get involved in it, but things are so different. Was it easy making the transition, or was it kind of hard to make that?
It's always easier when you know what God wants from you in your life and you're following God's voice. Uh, so that's definitely make things easier. But in general, as a human, definitely that wasn't the easiest move to do. Again, because my culture is, to a great extent, is a family culture and a community culture. So to make a decision to leave everything behind and move to another place with a different culture, different people, I don't know if I can relate even to their jokes or not. Like the way we joke is slightly different than American do their jokes. So it wasn't easy from that aspect, but God, because He was the one initiating all this, so He was comforting and encouraging me throughout this process.
Yeah, I mean, it was a leap of faith for sure. And speaking of faith, you talked about you are from a Baptist background in Egypt. Can you just tell me a little bit about what faith means to you?
Okay, so I don't think I can recall life before being a Christian. Like, I was born and raised in a Christian household. My mom made sure since I was little kid to, like, even the story, bedtime story that she's reading was to a great extent the Bible stories, until I was so familiar with them. Then she started to introduce another stories. But so, like, Christianity and Jesus and the Bible, those terminologies were like totally grasped to me when I was in a really young age. And I knew when I was maybe in third or fourth grade that there's a decision needed to be made to follow Christ. And I think I did this multiple times at that age. And since then I followed Christ. Yet when I grew up and I was in college and after graduation, I had that time where I started to question my faith. And my questioning, not because I didn't trust Jesus, but my questioning because I felt that what I know about God is different than what the people around me in the church or outside is doing it or living it. So I started to have my doubts. I started to Um, for some time, I set my faith aside. I cannot say that I dropped my faith, but I set it aside and I started to live a life that wasn't a Christian life, if like you're judging it. But also in that time, I decided to study Islam. I started to study Buddhism, and I started to look on like atheism, and to find out, okay, I think I know the truth, but where are those people are standing, or do they have any truth in what they believe in or not? And through that time, God was so faithful and so patient on me that I want all that path until I found out, okay, now I'm not only believing because I was taught that when I was a kid. I'm believing in my Christian faith because I've studied almost every other big faith in the world, and I found out the amount of flaws in the logic, in the philosophy, and in the practice in all of them. And yes, Christianity might have people that does not represent it really well, but the philosophy and the logic of Christianity to a great extent surpass and overcome any other system of faith from my understanding and my perspective.
Yeah, and I've only studied other worldviews on a base level, but I can even say, even at that point, like looking at those and then coming back to Christianity, it's kind of easy to see what truth is. It's easy to come back to God after doing that. So I think that's kind of an important step in your life that you went through.
Yes, I want to add Christianity, from my perspective, is the only faith that have logical construct that when you examine it from different angles, it will stand every time. Other faiths, they can look logical, but when you start asking more question, you're gonna find more problems. And the more you ask questions, you're gonna find more problems. Christianity, yes, there's so many tough concepts in Christianity, but they're still logical. So the Trinity is problematic, but it is logical if you looked at it from mere logical and philosophical understanding. Other faiths, they have flaws that are really, I don't know how people follow them, but I mean, it's their choice.
Right, for sure. Now I want to shift focuses a little bit, moving back to your time here at Hannibal LaGrange and kind of what you're doing in the ministry department. So we have some missions coming up this summer. Can you kind of tell us about those?
Yes, so I love mission work, and I didn't think at any moment of time I can call myself a missionary, just because I didn't think that I will be called one day to be living in a different country and do mission work. Until, honestly, I started to rethink about that when I moved to Hannibal, and I felt, okay, so I'm in the US and I'm doing ministry. That's technically what's called to be a missionary. Like, this is how they identify missionaries in so many places. So from that understanding, I do believe that the mission work is one of the venues that every Christian has to step in at one moment of time. You might not be a missionary in a different country, but if you don't have the mission mindset every day when you're going out from home to school, to college, to your job, even to the club or like the YMCA, like if you don't have that mindset, you still didn't grasp Christianity as you need to. So next summer we have one mission trip that going to Egypt. It will basically minister to kids in different areas in Egypt. And why is that? Because Egypt is one of the countries that you can't share the gospel in the street. You're going to be arrested and thrown into jail because the country rules is an Islamic rule, so they don't allow sharing the gospel. So basically we do a ministry to kids, play with them and tell them stories, and through the kids you can reach the families and the parents and you can share the gospel. So this will be in July. Also, in the same time, we have another mission trip led by Dr. Sabrina Brookshire from the art department, going to Germany and Switzerland. And they're going to work in a camp for missionary kids in Europe and Asia, like almost all over the world. But I mean, it's a camp that aid or like get some fun time for those missionary kids all over the world that needed like to gather and know other people like them because their life is so different. So those are the two mission trips that will be going this summer, and many more to come in the next semesters.
Oh, for sure. And I think what you said is so important. As college students, adults, we can kind of get into a routine, a flow where we kind of just do the day by day. But when you get the opportunity to go somewhere else to a different culture, like we were talking about earlier, and you get to actually share the gospel like we're called to do, I think that's so impactful on our lives. And it's just a really good opportunity for the students we have here to be able to do that. So that's awesome. Now, next, what are some of the events that we have on campus that you've either already established, are looking to do in the future, just to further ministry on campus for these students?
Okay, I mean, I came and I found the campus really have really good programs and events that is happening. Definitely, the gathering is the most prominent one where students gather and worship. And I know in the past, or like the near past, they used to have pastors like giving the message, or the previous campus director was giving the message. But my philosophy is slightly different. I love to partnership with students. Like, I don't think the gathering is another church event that should be happening on campus. I think it should be something that coming out of students to serve the students. That's why this semester, like, the focus was more about like, let's talk about those topics or those questions that everyone might have in that in that time, and also open the space for people to share the testimonies, because like my life changed because someone's testimony, and I believe every testimony matters. Every testimony have influence in others' lives, just because this testimony is about how gracious is God to that person, and the focus is on God, not on the human. So we have the gathering. I think we're meeting more, like double the time that was in the previous semesters, and we're having testimony nights and conversational nights, trying to ask or answer the big questions. I think we're going to continue this in the future, but again, it's I want to say this for every student. The gathering is for the students, by the students. So, like the testimony nights was a proposal from one of the students, and I said, "Yeah, let's do that. Let's work in that." So it's open to have any format, any topic to be discussed, any speaker to come. It's just open for students. We will also have more structured discipleship next semester. It was a need. Many students raised that they need like those core groups in their dorms. So this will be coming back next semester for sure. We're gonna have more local mission trips, whether it's in the city, St. Louis, or like a couple hour drive from here, or even like somewhere in the U.S. Like we can travel for a few days. But mission trips will be definitely more, and we're gonna work together to have more outcome from the spiritual emphasis week and the mission emphasis week. I think if we call them a week, then it had to be a whole week thing happening. Also, one good thing for our newcomers, we're gonna start community service projects for freshman class next semester, and this is gonna be like something that's gonna continue to happen for every freshman class, because again, we wanna embrace our faith by going out and living it, even if people like that can be the way to share the gospel to our students, by getting them out and starting serving our community.
For sure, all of that is super exciting. And then I think another way that we encourage the students here on campus to get involved is with churches. Why do you think it's so important for our students to get involved in a local church?
Okay, coming from a local church, like I was raised in the same church for so many years. When I moved to the U.S., I lost the support system that I had. And I didn't get back to my normal being until I found a church that I became part of it. And in church, you will not only find friends in your age. In church, you will find people that have wisdom in life that you cannot find at school. You cannot find them in within your peers. Uh, Seeing someone in their 60s and like having a conversation and they just share with you about one of the topics, this is wisdom that you need as a student. Uh, I remember many decisions I made that was wrong, that I needed someone to talk me through them. And I remember other decisions that I made after someone talked with me through those things that I was thinking about. And I can definitely say the ones that I had wisdom from people older than me made a huge difference. Adding to that, there are really support. I mean, most of our students came like living on campus. This simply means that you're away from the home that you were raised at, and you need a father figure and a mother. Yes, you're old, you're independent, you can do life alone, but trust me, I'm in my 40s and I'm still looking for those figures in my life, because there are some burdens need that kind of relationship to carry it with you. The other thing is, which I truly believe, because like Jesus gave us very, very, very few commands, and one of them is taking communion and eating his body and drinking his blood in the communion, and this only happens through church. And whether you like, I don't care how you believe about that theologically, but it has an impact in your life when you go do that communion with the body of Christ. You can see what's going to be in the future at this moment in heaven. So I think those two things, and there's so many other reasons. I mean, I found out, which was a fun thing, that here in Hannibal, most of the churches do game nights. That's really fun. I want to spend some time with people just playing games. So yeah, there's so many reasons to be part of a church, and I truly encourage every student I speak with, if you're not part of a church, you're the one who's missing. Yes, I can see the other side of it, where church is sometimes difficult. People sometimes hurt me. People sometimes stress me out. But let me tell you this. Life is more harder than that. And if this happened in a safe environment, you're basically stretching your ability to handle the real world. You're going to have more stress, more hurtful people outside of the church, that being in the church, supported and being challenged, can get you to live outside of the church with balance, without being stressed, without being going to anxiety, all that stuff, because you're going to have the support at the church that you will not have outside of that.
There are so many reasons. It's a benefit to get involved with the churches. I agree with everything you said. It's hard to pinpoint exactly, but yeah, I mean, in my experience too, it's been great to be connected, to have a church to go to every Sunday. It is really beneficial. Now,
Yeah, but let me add this. Church is not Sunday. Church is the body of Christ. So I know, and also that was one of the things that was so different than Egypt than the U.S. In Egypt, when I was a college student, I spent at least 5 days a week, afternoons, at church, because there's always something happening. We needed to renovate that place. We needed to go visit someone that is sick. We needed to even go and play games, as I was saying. We need to have a Bible study. Like, you can benefit from the church much more than just an hour and a half on Sunday morning that you sit and you feel like, check mark, like I did that. No, if you go to the church to check mark an activity in your week, this is not the church that I'm speaking about. Church I'm speaking about is living with the community, having fun with the kids at the church, having fun with the older people at the church, spending time together, traveling in the summer together. This is the church.
that's a very good point. And to summarize kind of everything that you've been talking about, why is campus ministry important?
I think it's important because I recall when I was at in my university, we didn't have campus ministry back in Egypt. So when I'm challenged through the day, it's one of two things. Either I'm gonna drop the day and drive back and find someone to like process this with them, or I have to push myself to finish the day and find someone. And again, I'm speaking about a culture where my church is 10 minutes away from home. But for many of our students that come from different cities, even different states or countries, they don't have this when they go home. They're still on campus. So campus ministry, I think one of the major benefits of it on campus is when you go through hard time, you can have someone to process things with. Yes, we're not therapists. We are not educated or certified to do therapy job, but therapy 30, 40, 50 years ago wasn't there. And but ministry was there and church was there. So having someone that can just sit and listen to you is really good thing. I wished I had that when I was at school. Like I can find someone to just go. They have an open door. I'm just get in and said, hey, I just want to talk with you about something, and then that person listens to me and maybe give advice or maybe not. Just listen.
For sure. Now, lastly, do you have anything else you'd like to add that you think is important for prospective students to know?
I think one challenge I see for newer students and current students, especially all those who came to college after COVID really changed the dynamics of the people. And if we're not aware that now the tendency to stay in my room is way more than being outside is a thing, and I need to step out of my comfort zone and overcome that and go out, you are missing learning skills that you need in your future, and the only ways to learn them is to go out of your room. And again, yes, we want you to be involved in ministry and Christian events, but there's also other things happening on campus that you just need to be outside. When you're outside, you're going to meet your lifetime friends. You're going to meet, or hopefully you're going to meet your future spouse. You're going to have fruitful and rich conversations with people. And also you're going to learn new skills. So the one thing I want to say to our current students and our future students, college is the golden time to stretch your abilities, because going out of college, employers are expecting you to have those abilities, and if you didn't start practicing them here, you're going to struggle to find a job.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of your time at college. That's a really good point. Well, that's all the time that we have today. Thank you, Mario, for taking the time to be here and talking about campus ministry with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me and hosting me. I hope that what we talked about would be beneficial for some of our students.
Of course, it's been great. Well, this has been Ministry Matters. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.